Last year, in 2023, I went on my usual hunting trip to Maine. Normally, I stayed in Airbnb instead of buying a place because it's cheaper that way. Also, I'm still getting the hang of hunting, and I've been going by myself more often because my uncle hasn't been feeling well enough to come along. I stayed in a cabin near a big park. When I got there on a Friday night, it was really dark and quiet. There were no bugs or crickets, just total darkness. I found the key where the owner told me it would be, got comfortable, and went to sleep after a tiring day of work and travel. The next morning, I woke up early, even before the sun came up. I was all set to go and check out the woods. While I was getting things ready, I suddenly heard a voice behind me. It really startled me. It was a man with gray hair, not really old, but he seemed pretty upset. He spoke to me in a sharp, unfriendly way, asking why I was there. He mentioned that hunting wasn't allowed. I had no idea about that rule. I said sorry and quickly packed up to leave, feeling really embarrassed and confused. When I looked back, he was gone. I found a new place to hunt, but I didn't have any luck. I went back to the cabin around noon and saw that the door was open, even though I was sure I had locked it. Inside, things looked messy, and my bag was open. It felt strange, but I ignored it because I was really hungry. I quickly went to a nearby village to get some Chinese food, and then came back to eat and take a nap. After I returned to the woods later, I couldn't find anything while hunting. My uncle used to say that hunting depends on luck and timing. Unfortunately, luck wasn't on my side that day. So I went back to the cabin, made some pasta, and sat down to watch TV. I was watching an old movie when I remembered the door was unlocked earlier, and things got moved. It made me feel scared. While I was almost falling asleep on the couch, I heard the closet door open suddenly. It shocked me awake. I quickly took my gun and, with my heart racing, shouted for whoever it was to come out. This guy I saw before suddenly appeared. I was really surprised. He seemed strange, with a tooth missing and a weird grin. I got scared and called the police. I kept him in one place with my gun until they got there. While we waited, he kept talking angrily about how people were being rude in the parks. It made me really nervous until the police came, arrested him, and listened to what he had to say. But then something changed. The police found strange things in his bag, tools and a map of the place with spots marked. It looked like he was planning more than just breaking in. The police asked him questions, and he finally told the truth. He wasn't just someone who loved the park. He was with a group trying to stop illegal hunting there. He thought I was a hunter and got upset, which led to our arguments. It was a misunderstanding. He thought I was doing something bad because he saw some suspicious people who were bothering animals. He was really worried and thought I was part of that group, so he kept watching the cabin to make sure. The person in charge said it was my fault for not locking the door, but I'm not sure if I actually forgot. It was really scary, but having my gun made me feel safer and helped me handle the situation until help came. Eventually, the police just warned the guy and let him go. I realized I need to always check if doors are locked, especially in a new or unfamiliar place. I live in a tiny town called Cedar Creek in East Texas. It's really quiet and small, with only about 600 people. Everyone knows each other here. The nearest big town feels really far away. Most of the land is for cows, with big open fields that go on for a long way. But besides that, there are lots of tangled trees and wild forests too. Our small house is near the lake, just a quick 10-minute walk away. Near the water, there are lots of plants and trees, except for the spots where we make room for fishing. My stepdad and I really enjoyed fishing, especially at night. We'd go out on the lake in our little rowboat, or kayaks, putting out lines in the water, hoping to catch some fish. One night, something changed. We were with my stepdad's friend, Jake. Everything was going well. We set up containers, paddled to an open area for a rest. I stayed in the boat, using a bright light and a gun to look around and make sure everything was safe, checking for any problems. The forest near the lake was always spooky, especially at night. Sometimes I thought something was watching me, but I usually ignored it, thinking it was just my mind playing tricks. But that night was strange. I heard weird noises, like branches breaking far away. I called out thinking it was my stepdad and Jake, but nobody answered. They often went exploring around there, so I figured they were just out exploring as usual. Time felt really slow, like minutes were stretching into hours. My heart was thumping fast because I could hear loud noises coming closer. Then I heard people shouting far away, and I felt relieved and breathed out. But then I heard more noises, like something crunching, and I saw them coming quickly towards our boat. They jumped in really fast, looking really worried. My stepdad was serious, telling me to get the rifle and go to the other side of the boat. We drove fast from the shore, the sounds still bouncing in the woods, but I couldn't see anything. I held onto the rifle really hard, feeling the heaviness of not knowing what was out there. Nothing came after us into the water, but I still felt nervous. At home, Jake looked really scared. He quickly went towards the cars. My stepdad was also scared. He was driving the boat while I was picking up the ropes. But something wasn't right. My stepdad kept the boat in the middle of the water when our ropes were close to the edge. And those ropes, they were moving, but he said there was nothing on them. As we brought everything back, my stepdad told me not to tell my mom about what happened. He couldn't explain it. He said they were looking around far away when something scared them, and they hurried back. It was really big and loud, definitely not a bear. But what got me was how worried he seemed. He's usually calm, but this really shook him up. Time went by, and my stepdad didn't want to talk about that night. He avoided going back to the lake completely. But I got really curious. I peeked at his journal, something he always had with him. I saw notes about the lake, weird noises, and something about things people had seen there before. Once, there was a tale about a lonely old person who lived near a lake. Some folks thought this person practiced spooky magic. People talked about how this person suddenly went missing, making others feel worried. I didn't believe it until I found an old story in the town's records. It talked about weird things happening, like people going away without a reason, all connected to the lake and the area nearby. I talked to my stepdad about it, and that's when he finally told me what happened. He saw something weird that night, something really strange. It wasn't just an ordinary animal, it was something strange and out of place. He saw a tall, bent-over shape moving among the trees. He couldn't get rid of the feeling that it wasn't completely a person. We wanted to explore the secrets of the lake, but we couldn't find any answers. We tried a lot, but we always reached a dead end or saw strange things. Whatever was in those woods seemed to hide from us. Before I continue to the next story, if you are interested in earning from YouTube without showing your face, or without making videos by yourself using artificial intelligence, like the video that you are watching right now, then I have a special free training for you. Check the first link in the description below to get instant access. Back in the day of early winter, I loved hunting. I'd work hard in the autumn because that's when animals get ready to have babies. I had a reliable gun called a 270 Winchester rifle. It was perfect for catching big animals like elk or deer without kicking back too much. My top choice: hunting elk. They were really tough to catch. I used to visit a thick forest that had open spaces where elks liked to hang out. They often wandered around there in the early morning or sometimes at night. One day, I got there really early, hoping to find a good spot. I looked around and got lucky. I saw some big hoof prints, likely from elks. I was thrilled and sat down nearby. I don't like waiting, so I looked around the forest. I heard some noises that sounded like animals, but they weren't the usual elk sounds. They seemed more like deer. I didn't mind though. I just wanted to see anything at that point, so I kept watching carefully. I saw a deer, even though it wasn't what I was trying to catch. I managed to catch it easily without any trouble. I kept my rifle ready, just in case there were more animals nearby. Something really weird happened. I saw a strange, skinny, pale creature. It ran really fast and grabbed a deer effortlessly before running off. The way it moved was strange, like those videos where a cat carries its babies, but this time it was with a deer. Then it disappeared into the trees super quickly, like a chameleon blending in. I got scared and left quickly. I ran back to my car, feeling really scared and thinking that scary thing might show up again. I didn't think telling anyone would help because they might not believe me. Instead, I told a ranger nearby so they could warn other people in the forest. Later on, I searched for Skinwalker. I'd never heard about it before, but what I read and saw in the pictures seemed a bit like what I witnessed. It might have been my imagination, but that thing wasn't like any normal animal for sure. The day wasn't just about strange things I saw. I saw a cute family of foxes playing in the morning. It was nice to see. I also talked with an experienced hunter named Joe. He told me scary stories about this place, but nothing could get me ready for what happened next. I sat in my car, feeling really surprised. I looked back at the forest one more time. The sunlight coming through the trees looked so nice. It made long shadows that moved around on the ground like a dance. Days passed, and I couldn't stop thinking about the strange creature I saw. I kept asking myself if it was actually real or if I imagined it. But one evening, something unexpected happened. I got a call from old-timer Joe. He knew about what I saw and wanted to meet. I was curious and a little nervous, but I said yes. We saw each other at a nearby cafe. Joe looked tough, like he spent a lot of time outside. He asked for strong coffee and leaned closer, looking serious. "Did you see it too?" he whispered. I nodded, feeling a bit unsure. "It doesn't happen often, but it's not impossible," Joe said mysteriously. "These woods hide secrets, things folks don't talk about much." He started telling stories about strange creatures that lived on the edges of reality. These were old stories that had been passed down for ages, tales of weird events and sightings of creatures that nobody could explain. It made me feel really scared. "Why don't people talk about this?" I asked, feeling confused. "Because they're scared of things they can't understand," Joe said, taking a sip of his coffee. "It's easier for them to say it's just make-believe than to admit that something strange might be real." We kept talking about these mysterious things, and it left me even more interested, but also kind of worried. When I left the diner, I couldn't stop thinking about those stories, and I felt uneasy. Time passed and I stopped thinking much about the time I met the forest creatures. I went back to the woods, being careful. I still wanted the excitement of hunting, but I started noticing the unknown secrets hidden in the trees. The forest stayed quiet, but I felt like someone or something else was there. Things that didn't make sense, things I might never understand, seemed to be around me.